Center Grace family, it is so good to be back with you again today. We're going to continue our conversation on the trellis. And last week, if you remember, I tried to overlay a shape on top of the trellis that we've talked about before, that triangle shape, remember? We talk about how the 3 points are up, in, and out. And again, that you can see how it just overlays on top of this image of the trellis, those 3 vertical roots, deepening our relationship with God. This side, on the right side, family and friends, exercise, recreation, kind of the inward dimension of who we are. And then work, witness, mercy, and justice, that more outward dimension of who we are. And today, we're going to focus on relationships. We're going to talk about family and friends, or friendship, and just our utter need for that. Now, as we do that, I want you to imagine in my right hand, I've got a bag full of marbles. And in my left hand, I've got a cluster of grapes. What would you say the church is more like? Are we more like a bag full of marbles, or are we more like a cluster of grapes? Now, when I think about that bag full of marbles, I think about the bag itself almost representing the events, the kinds of things that we as the church do, worship services, small groups, stuff like that. But it's in a bag of marbles, there's no organic relationship to it, right? We're not really attached to one another. We're just collected together. And then as soon as that event is over, we just kind of go about our way, right? Well, I think we're supposed to be more like a cluster of grapes than we are a bag full of marbles. There's supposed to be an organic, dynamic relationship to us as followers of Jesus. We are supposed to have deep inward relationships, especially with our family and our friends. But what does it take? If we're going to have those kinds of relationships, what's it going to take? Now, remember that when you think about relationships, the story of relationships goes all the way back to the beginning. In Genesis 2:18, God had made the beauty of his creation and all of its splendor and greatness, and yet God said it's not good for a human being to be alone. We need other people. You see that even in Jesus' own life, right? He had a whole entourage of people, crowds that followed him all the time. But more than that, Jesus had 12 dudes that he spent a lot of time with that were companions for the journey. But you could say even beyond that, Jesus had 3 guys that were confidants, that he really knew, or that he wanted to have his back at all times, and that was Peter, James, and John, right? Jesus needed human relationships, and so do we. Now, there are 59 commands in the New Testament that speak to the idea of doing something with, or for, or to one another, like love one another, even as I have loved you. But today, we're going to look at one command in Galatians chapter 6, verse 2, and it's this one. It says, bear one another's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. Again, Galatians 6:2, bear one another's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. Now, when you think about being transformed into the image of Jesus, a lot of times we might have the tendency to just stress these 3 vertical roots, right? Our upward dynamic. My time reading the scriptures, my time in prayer, my time Sabbathing, resting in the Lord. But God also wants to use relationships to transform us more and more into his image. I remember reading something recently where a person said that spiritual formation, discipleship, is invariably, it is essentially relational. If we think that relationship with God is just between me and God, just through these vertical roots, then we don't understand God, who is in himself communal, relational. And we don't understand ourselves, that we have a need for human relationships. We have that deep, deep need to be transformed into the image of Jesus through relationships. And if God is going to make us more like Jesus, guess what's going to change? Our relationships. And if God is going to make us like Jesus, guess how he's going to do it? One of the ways is going to be through relationships. There's a proverb that says, just like iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. It's true. If we're going to be made like Jesus, we've got to have deep relationships. We've got to have not only that upward, but that inward and even the outward dimension. But what's it take? We're going to look at 2 things, and then we're going to summarize it with 4 layers to friendship today. Here's the first thing. If we're going to be made into the image of Jesus through friendship, we're going to have to be transparent with others. Are we being that? Are we being transparent with other people? Again, think about how transparent Jesus was On the night that he was about to be betrayed, he told his disciples that his soul was burdened. He was trying to get his disciples to bear with him his burdens, and in that way fulfill the law. Jesus said, guys, I need you to stay up. I need you to pray with me during this time. Now again, relationships sometimes fail us, just like they failed Jesus in that moment. And when we think about stepping into this inward dimension of relationship, we have to step through some of the wounds that have taken place in our lives, maybe from our family and from our friends in the past. We have to be honest that the people that we're going to be in relationship with, they're at times going to fail us. But the other question is, even as we recognize the sinfulness of ourselves and the people that are around us, do we recognize the grace of God that's at work in their lives? That God is transforming them even as he's trying to transform us. So are we being transparent with others? Am I willing to say, hey, this is burdening me right now, and I need you to bear this burden with me and for me, and in that way demonstrate the love of Christ to me? Am I being that kind of person? Now, if I'm going to do that with others, the expectation then would be that that person would be the kind of person that I would want to be transparent with, right? The New Testament speaks an awful lot about the sin of gossip. We have to be people of confidence. We have to be the kinds of people that others want to be transparent with. And if we're not, it's no wonder that people aren't being transparent with us. Are you that kind of person? Am I that kind of person? A kind of person that other people want to be transparent with. But then the second thing that we need to think about is, are we looking out for other people? That's one of the things that Jesus did constantly in his ministry. Yes, he had 3 dudes that he was incredibly committed to. He had 12 disciples. He had a group. But in the crowd, Jesus was constantly looking out for other people. And are we doing that? Are we thinking about the kinds of relationships that other people need? And are we investing in them in that same way? Am I being present? Am I being consistent? Am I being attentive in those relationships that I have with other people? Am I getting to know people even that I don't know as well? Those are some of the things that we have to do as a church if we're going to live more like a cluster of grapes than just like a bag of marbles. You hear us talking all the time about our second ministry pillar, transformational community. That's what we're talking about. Those inward relationships that we have with other people through which Jesus is changing us. All right, let's wrap it up with 4 different layers to relationships or friendship. The first, if we're going to have any kind of friendship or relationship with people, we're going to have some shared passions, shared interests. Maybe it's a sports team. In the church, it's Jesus, right? We have a shared passion for the King of Kings and for the kingdom. And that is basically kind of the context for real relationship and friendship to grow. But if we're gonna deepen in those friendships, it's gonna take some other things. It's gonna take loyalty. Again, that kind of gets back to transparency. Am I the kind of person that demonstrates loyalty in friendship? Am I the kind of person that people want to be transparent with? I need to be loyal. I need to be a committed friend. But then it's also going to take honesty. Am I being transparent with others? So these 2, in one sense, are summed up in that idea of transparency, right? Am I honest with other people? But am I also letting other people be honest with me? We need passion, shared passion. We need loyalty or commitment. We need honesty. And then finally, true friendship is going to take sacrifice. I'm going to have to give up time. I'm going to have to give up some of the things that I want to do if I'm going to deepen my friendships and if I'm going to really be transformed through this inward dimension. So as we end today, here are a couple questions for you. Which of these is hardest for you? Passion's probably pretty easy. I mean, you just have some affinities that other people have, right? You root for the same sports team. You like to do the same things on weekends or whatever. But of these last 3, loyalty, honesty, and sacrifice, which is the hardest for you? Maybe it's honesty. right? New Englanders, we love saying, I'm all set, right? I'm not sharing my burdens with other people. I'll handle it. I'll pull myself up by my bootstraps. That's not the law of Christ, right? Jesus says we need to bear one another's burdens. I need to be willing to be honest. Is that one hardest for you? I think sometimes it might be hardest for me. But when you think about, again, all of this and this kind of friendship, are you this kind of person? Are you the kind of person that Jesus is really wanting you to be? The kind of person who can hold a confidence, the kind of person who demonstrates loyalty and is willing to sacrifice. Which one of those is hardest for you? But make no mistake, God wants to transform us, not just through our upward dimension, but also through our inward dimension too. Transformational community. We love you guys. We'll see you on Sunday.